I'm William Shatner. I've done a lot of things in my career, but this takes the cake. This is so cool. You, Joseph, today, it's all about you. You won the internet. Congratulations. It's exciting. It makes me want to celebrate. Makes me want to get up out of this chair. Makes me want to sing. Makes me want to dance. Makes me want to shout. Kick my heels up. Throw my hands up. Toss my head back. No, really, people should be shouting your name in the street.
Come on now. Sing
that song.
Joseph,
Sing it out loud.
Joseph.
I want to celebrate. Put it up in lights.
The internet belongs to you.
See, no one else deserves to be celebrated like you because you are the best.
Joseph JAFFE is not famous. Me, Tom Arnold, I am very famous. I absolutely like, because it's very true. Like, I hadn't freaking heard of you until I was sitting on a Friday night. This is how bad my life is. Listen, fucker, good luck. Good luck with your rebranding. Like anybody knew what the name was before. What was the name? Okay, who gives a shit? That's a good name because it's got your name in it. You can pretend you're humble. You say, I'm not famous. And, which you aren't. So you're just, I mean, anyway, but I hope you get famous doing this. Good luck to you.
Woo-hoo!
Woody-hoo! Out here in the stream, as in the streaming era, I fight for my dreams. I get my heart into my living.
You encourage drinking or marijuana use on the show?
I don't need a fight, cause Evelyn's right. Or you could sponsor an emu. I'm Batman.
That's your tweetable moment, folks. That's your tweetable moment. If Mark Zuckerberg makes a metaverse, is that Web3? No, it's Mark Zuckerberg's metaverse.
He's like us. He's flawed.
Just a little segue.
That's some dope shit, dude. That's really, really nice.
Woody-hoo!
Woody-hoo! Yes, it looks like I've been to hell and back. My skin is on fire. And I have no idea if it's because I'm sunburnt, which I may be or I may not be. It may be the lights. And Donnie, you're in the green room. I figured out how to mirror myself. So now finally I don't have to like think left but go right. Now I know that that is the right and that is the left. So there's a light on me here, which is making me glow. It could be my new HD camera, which was probably a very poor choice. When you look like this, you want to go SD. You want to go low resolution. You do not want to go high resolution. But anyway, I am here. I am happy to be here. This episode is brought to you by my new project, the Alpha Collective. It is minting right now as we speak. And, I'm going to talk about it in the soliloquy, about pain, about how this might be the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life. But you know what? I'm energized. I'm energized by it. I'm energized by the journey. And you know what? The destination, I don't really care about it. I know I'll get there. That's inevitable. But it is that journey filled with twists and turns, with bumps and bruises. And, necessity is the mother of invention. It has allowed me to pursue what I think is this interesting angle that I want to deliver 100x in value and utility. Can you imagine that? 100x. Do you know any project, any community that undertakes on day one to deliver 100x in value and utility? And guess what? I've already done it. I've already done it. Why? Because when you add up the speaker fees, when you add up the stature of my 52 Alpha Talk speakers, it is 400x. And that is not a scientific calculation. I literally pulled it out of my you-know-where. But no, I didn't. It actually is fairly accurate. But you're going to hear from the likes of Todd Kaplan, who is the CMO of a small beverage company called Pepsi. Baratundi Thurston, a media television personality, content maker, creator extraordinaire. Faith Popcorn, the original futurist. These are just 4 of the Alpha Talk speakers. And Zoe Skaman, who was on the show before. What an amazing, amazing strategic mind she is. But I wanted to go further than that. And so I've set aside 100 ETH, which at today's price is probably about $120,000. This money will be invested back into the community. So rather than me go and hire from the outside, rather than me go and bring in people to moderate, to help run some of the content, I'm going to turn to you. I'm going to turn to people that actually buy passes and not only give them some visibility, but I'm also going to pay you. In fact, so much so that I'll keep paying you until your pass is free. And so now you're in a community that recognizes and rewards you. So these are just 2 ways that I will continue to reinvent the way that we think about community, the way we think about subscription, the way we think about membership in this Web3 enabled world. I also want to announce that today is Tuesday, Lubna Zaru, who was my guest a couple of weeks ago, she's joining as a correspondent. And so she will now start submitting vignettes on Tuesday. On Wednesday, of course, we'll hear from Whitney Lauritsen, our resident Wellness Wednesday expert. And then, of course, on Thursday, Tom Morris, our philosopher, will philosophize, because that's what philosophers do. They philosophize. Let's hear from Lubna, who will be presenting what she calls Flow Tuesday.
Where is your attention right now? I bet it might be all over the place. Maybe you're in your mind thinking about your groceries. Maybe you are watching the show right now and fully focused on what has been shared up to this point. Well, I know one thing is that we live in a world with distractions. There is so much happening around us, and that's not even counting for internal distractions. Now, you may or may not have heard of the statement, where your attention goes, your energy flows. So on this Flow Tuesday, I want to point you and make you aware of, do you know where your attention is right now? Because that is what you are focusing on. And if you are not happy with the results and the life that you have right now, then look at what you are giving your attention to, because that is what is getting the majority of your energy, and energy creates movement. So focus is the theme for today, and it does require some practice to weed out all of the distractions, whether they are internal or external, but it pays if you want to be able to give all of your goals and dreams the focus that they deserve. I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next Flow Tuesday.
Well done, Lubna. You've just broken your duck. You've just submitted your first vignette, and you will look back on that vignette and you will cringe at what you did. Oh, not because it wasn't good, but because it's just going to get better and better. Part of this whole process, part of the energy is getting those reps under your belt. If you want something to flow, flow by definition means movement, and movement means growth. And we're going to talk about energy. We're going to talk about attention. We're going to talk about growth, all with Donnie in just a few moments. But let me just distract you slightly. And of course, you know that I give away a little bit of JAFFE coin, a little bit of free JAFFE coin. There is your QR code. That code is live as long as the show is live. And you need to own 10 JAFFE coin in order to get free coin. And you do that. In fact, you can go into my Discord, as many of you know, and verify based on how many JAFFE coin you own. You will get a variety of roles, from fan to insider to VIP to super fan, all of which are going to come with poiks, also known as perks and poiks. But you're going to get that. So there is your QR code. And there's Lubna, who said, I did cringe. I could see it, Lubna, because I know you and you've been on the show. And I could just see it was actually quite beautiful. It was beautiful seeing you get comfortable and discovering your authentic voice. You don't need to cringe because you did it. You put yourself out there, and that puts you in the 1% of 1% of 1% of people that want to create, but they just don't have the ability to create. So kudos to you. Well, now it's time for our seated soliloquy. And the seated soliloquy, I actually had Donnie on Instagram Live. We did a little live just before, and also I was thinking about it this morning when I do a little story, a 1-minute story vignette on Instagram. But today the vignette or the soliloquy is called "Enjoy the Pain," as opposed to "Enjoy the Silence," which was a Depeche Mode song, and they've just had a death in the family. One of their band members, unfortunately, just passed away. But I digress. You know, this morning when I actually did my vignette, I was talking about how you never forget the first. You never forget the first time you actually come on as a correspondent. You never forget the first time that you're a guest on a show. You never forget the first time that you were a host on the show. You never forget the first time that you launched a collection or you threw a party and nobody showed up. You never forget the first sale. And you also never forget the first time that you sell out, that you mint out, that you achieve success. But here's the thing, the destination is always a little empty. It's always a little bit of an anti-climax. Why? Because you make your goal, you want to do better. You run a marathon, you want to finish faster in the future. You make $1 million, you want to make a second million. You want to make 10 million. Everything's success. The destination is relative. But what isn't relative is actually those moments leading up to the destination. And in those moments is a lot of pain. And so one of the things that I even said this morning is that, you know, when you do mint out, you only mint out once, or you only mint out first once. When that moment, I'm getting verklempt, when that moment happens, savor it, enjoy it. And if it happens too quickly, that is what's called premature cessation. I don't know what it is. Premature elation. How about that? That's you know, thinking a little bit quicker on my feet. Not quick enough because I screwed it up the first time. It's premature elation. You don't want it to be over too soon, because when it's over too soon, that pleasure is short-lived. Instead, slow it down, enjoy the pain, and by enjoying the pain, that moment of pleasure is going to endure because you work so damn hard for it. And it was, well, I hope, for myself, for yourself, will be worth the wait. Well, one person who is worth the wait is Mr. Donnie Boivin, and a little bit about my very famous guest. Donnie Boivin is an entrepreneur and serves as CEO and founder of Success Champions and Success Champion Networking. Donnie is considered one of the leading global minds on sales, business development, and business growth. He is the first person to make sales and business development relatable and human. Donnie is a community builder at heart. He builds champions. I'm ready to sign up. I want to be a champion. Today, he helps small business owners leverage sales and business development to grow and then scale their business through his international best-selling book, Cooked to Focused. What the hell does that mean? Success Champion Networking, Badass Business Summit, and Champions Table Masterminds. Welcome to the show, Mr. Donnie Boivin.
Hey, what's up, brother? How are you?
I'm good. I'm only joking. The book is called To Focused.
You better keep that button close.
Which
That one.
You know what? That is manual. There's too much human error in my life. But the book is called. Now, actually, funnily enough, I was thinking about it. You know, the book is called Fuck to Focus. And I actually went and I did a little bit of research, and I just typed into Google, you know, Fuck to Focus. Unfortunately, now my entire search history is filled with porn. You know, when my wife now looks at my search history, I am fucked. So thank you
Yes.
very much.
You're welcome for that. You're welcome for that. I did that just for you, brother.
Yeah, but at least I know how to get videos on MILF, so that was good. Um, but you know, I wrote a book called Built to Suck, and actually one of the things that I encountered was that there are a lot of potential clients and potential speakers bureaus and potential audiences, and they can't deal with, you know, a word like suck or sucked or shit or you
So
know,
dumb.
and it's so dumb because these are the words we use every day.
Oh, I've been running my company, since 2017, and we have the Badass Business Summit. I cuss like I cuss and talk like I talk, and I still get these people that reach out to me. And it's always the old gray hair white dudes that are reaching out. They're like, you do a hell of a lot more business and get a lot more done if you didn't cuss so damn much. And my response is really simple. I'm like, thanks for proving that you're not the person I'm talking to.
Yeah, you
Anytime,
can't.
anytime I'm putting out content, and the National Speakers Association actually wouldn't let me join, which I'm fine
Wow.
with, based on a couple of conversations or a couple of speeches I gave, and I mean, I know for a fact at one point the National Speakers Association, they actually kicked Larry Wingett out for his profanity, and it's. When is society as a whole going to grow up and realize that they're just words? And for me, somebody asked me once upon a time, they're like, "Why do you cuss so much?" And I said, "It's really, really simple. You can get through to a lot of people, but if I take freaking Broadway musical into the heart of the deep South country living hillbilly nation, they're not going to hear that music whatever played." So I figure that if I talk like I talk, I cuss like I cuss, and I carry myself like I carry myself, then my people will continue to show up. And that's the only people I really give a shit about anyways, is the people that aren't overly sensitive, aren't worried about, the word fuck or anything else popping up in their life, and realize this is how normal people talk anyways. So let's just be people and have fun with it.
I totally agree, and I've always wondered, especially when I came to the US, I don't know how many decades, millennia ago. I always would wonder how you'd be watching, I don't know, Pulp Fiction on Bravo or some nondescript AMC channel, and you'd basically see someone's brains kind of blown out and splattered all over the back seat of the car. But when they said the word, like "fuck you," it was like "frog you,"
Right.
and I'm like, wait, the language is offensive.
You can show tits and ass everywhere, but you can't say fuck.
I mean, there you go. Just hold on. Timestamp 18 minutes. That is your 1 minute highlight, ladies and gentlemen. True words have never been spoken. Well, it was Groucho Marx who said, "I refuse to join any club that would have me as a member." So, I'm not a member of any national speakers bureaus either. I guess that's why I like hanging out with you. But it's authentic, it's authentic voice. And I've always said to people, if you ever have to wonder if you should swear, the answer is no, probably not. Like if it's natural and you're not trying to impress someone, you're not trying to get, Lubna spoke about attention. If you're not trying to get attention, and it's just a natural extension of how you normally are, well, that is authentic voice, and people don't really understand.
Well, here's an interesting thing for me, Joseph, is I grew up, corporate America, blue collar world, and you didn't cuss, especially in the job environment, and so I was very conscious of how I used to talk and dress and act. I was invited to give a keynote presentation down in Florida, and they paid me a significant amount of money to come down and give this keynote presentation. And right before I was going on stage, the gentleman who paid me the money to come down and do the keynote pulls me aside. Now, before I tell you what he said to me, at this point, I wasn't that long into building my companies, and I was still wearing, I was in blue jeans, but I was still in button-down shirts, no ball caps. I wasn't cussing all that much, and I was still trying to disassociate with Donnie, who was corporate America, because while you're in corporate America, you know, the world got one version of yourself, you know, but once you came home, you were somebody else because God, nobody wants to see that person at work. So what I was, as I was getting ready to go on the stage, the guy who, you know, brought me in, he grabs me by the arm and says, "Hey, Donnie, before you go up there, I need a favor." I'm like, "Okay, you know, sure. What do you need? What can I help you with?" He goes, "I need you to not go full Donnie." And I said, "What does that mean?" And he goes, "I'm afraid you're going to upstage me." And I said, "That's the dumbest thing you could have said to me right before I walked on your stage." And I yanked my arm out of his and I ran up on stage because the announcer was announcing me in. And I had never done this before. And I walked out to the whole room, 500 some odd people. And I'm like, where the fuck are all my badasses at? And the freaking 75% of the crowd just goes bananas, right? Right, just like that. And as I felt the energy of that room, the moment that I fully showed up as me, I realized in that moment that for the rest of my journey, the world is going to meet me. And from that point on, I started wearing, you know, ball caps because I wear ball caps all the time. I was wearing the t-shirts, talking like I talk. And the most fascinating thing actually happened was my people did show up. You know, my people, you know, literally came to the table because they realized that if I was going to go as loud and crazy as I've gone to put myself out there and be myself, they could show up as them, build their businesses, build their companies, and not have to worry about the judgment of the world beating the pure living shit out of them. And it's been a lot of fun.
What a great insight, because this wasn't as much about even you showing up as your authentic self. It was giving them permission to
100%.
be their authentic selves. And I think that's such an amazing, amazing concept. And I guess maybe, you know, the corollary of this idea of if you should ask whether you should swear, the answer is probably not, is the fact that you probably feel that moment when you know that you've hit your stride, when you've discovered your authentic voice, because of the energy, or maybe I should say being energized and realizing that you are comfortable in your own skin.
For sure.
And this is who I am and who I was meant to be.
Well, it's the whole idea of flow state. So when you get into that flow, and for me, when I'm in complete flow, I don't even realize how many F-bombs I drop. It's quite funny to me to go back and watch videos of being on stage and everything when I'm really getting into a jazzed up speech. But I've been on several podcasts and news specials and things where they're like, you can't cuss on here. And you can see when I break flow because I catch myself and I usually will make fun of myself. And I'm like, oop, I almost screwed up and dropped an F-bomb, or I almost screwed up and said the S word. And I'll say it in the middle of the thing because it's me coming to the forefront out of my own head going, okay, you got to remember, you need to respect their platform, which I totally get. And I'm totally for. But a really funny moment for me was a Gary V video, and Gary was on stage and you could tell he was really trying to deliver. And he goes, you know what? They paid me $5,000 extra to not cuss on this stage. You can have your fucking $500,000 back. I can't do this without fucking talking to you guys like I need to fucking talk to you. And it was a cool moment to watch Gary, who kind of led the charge to profanity in there. I mean, there's definitely some other people did before it. You know, they went loud with how they talk and talk like they talk. But, you know, to watch him be himself more so than give a damn about the dollar at that moment was pretty cool. And I think, I don't know, it's still, for me, it's always going to go back to the more that I can show up as me, country blue collar dude that still lives on a freaking farm. I don't give a damn how crazy and weird your ass is. You can come hang out and let's have some fun.
I'm ready to come and have some fun with. I guess you've now positioned yourself as Larry the Cable Guy meets Jeff Foxworthy of keynote speakers. I also wonder actually whether in fact, going back to that Gary V moment, whether it was either, you know, and we never know, right? Whether it was rehearsed, whether it was planned, whether there was $5,000, or maybe they actually paid him $5,000 to cuss.
Right.
I also
That's a
find
valid
it's
point.
it's also interesting that you would use the word cuss, which sounds so polite and so undonny, right? There needs to be a swear word for a swear word. There isn't one. There's only like a modifier, like a fucking swear word.
Right?
Um, note to self, note to self. I, I think it's great. Lubna says fun, and Lubna is all about flow, and I think that was amazing. The two of you could not be more different, and yet you both are experts and masters at really recognizing the power of flow. And I love the idea of break flow and flow state. The more I learn, the more I want to learn. And that also applies to you, because people want to learn who is the real Donnie Boivin. So the thing about you is you're actually kind of boring in terms of fun facts, because you as your authentic self was so damn exciting. So the only thing that we could find, when we sent our investigators into the field, is that you run a dwarf Nigerian goat farm. That almost seems politically incorrect. But
I hope I
don't know,
never see that image ever again.
so do I. So do I. But I mean, I don't know. What is a dwarf Nigerian goat? Is that something that promises an inheritance? I don't know.
Absolutely, absolutely. It grants wishes and all kinds of fun stuff. No, that picture is horrible.
All right, it's gone. It's gone.
growing
Wait
up,
until you see the next one.
oh, I'm sure it gets better from here. I grew up on a farm and then spent years in the suburbia world and all that. And when I met my wife, she'd never done the farm life and farm living. So, when we moved out to the country, and we finally bought our dream farm and built a house on the property for my mother-in-law. Too funny. I had a goat growing up whose name was Billy. And so I always joked to my wife that we're going to get goats on our farm, and which led to now we have a whole herd of dwarf Nigerian goats. Like my tallest goat gets about 34 inches tall. So I mean, it's the size of a small dog. But it's usually the videos outside of the fainting goats, which I don't have. Usually the videos you see with all the jumping goats and everything everywhere, that's the dwarf Nigerian. So they're actually a pretty expensive breed of goats, and people raise them just like you would expensive dog breeds. And there's whole bloodlines and, and the like. So it's a pretty cool escape from reality, if you will, being back here on the farm. So our farm is really our retreat, where nobody gets back here unless you're invited, and it allows us to do whatever the hell we want and not to worry about prying eyes. So I always tell my wife, Elizabeth, that I continue to be the most famous guy that nobody knows, which is a really good thing to be.
And I'm the most not famous guy that nobody knows. Or maybe I'm the most not famous guy that people know, but I knew there was a connection between the two of us. Look, I don't know if I'm going to be invited to the farm, but if I am ever invited, I know that I won't be reading, because you only read your first book at the age of 22. I'm not going to embarrass you anymore, except I did find this interesting quote from, one of the great readers of our time, Kanye Ye West, who said, I mean, I don't think he said this at all, but research confirms people who hate reading are smarter. So, I just don't tell me you're a bookworm now.
No, actually, I don't read again. But
you read and then you didn't.
Yeah, for that's the truth. I mean, my dad handed me the book Think and Grow Rich when I was 14 years old, and I hated school. I hated everything about it. Most of my teachers literally, told me they were passing me on just so they didn't get me back the next year. And I was a class clown, smart ass, and I was 44 years old. I was diagnosed with ADHD. It explains a lot of how I was in high school. Not an excuse for how I acted in high school, but it explains a lot of how I acted in high school. And I think school, never really made sense for me. So I never learned most of the traditional things. Like I never properly learned grammar and all that stuff. So if you see me post on social media, writing books and the likes, man, that's all self-taught. because the when they were teaching me in school and stuff, that it just did not make sense to me. And I'm a pretty fucking smart guy, but it's all from the school of hard knocks and just figuring shit out as I go along. And what I found, as I was building my business, because dude, I was the self-help guy. Give me every self-help book you could think of, and I was devouring it. Business books, sales books. I mean, I was autobiographies. I loved it. And I have a massive library of all the shit that I've actually read. And once I started building the business, I had to stop reading books because they, unbeknownst to me, started becoming silver bullets. And I would read somebody else's thought process or methodology, and that all of a sudden became the thing I needed to do with my company. And so I had to turn off the reading and the input of a singular focused knowledge because it was so influencing me too much, and it would screw up what we were doing with the business. So I listen to a ton of podcasts. I, read a lot of social media and the likes because I can pick up snippets and it doesn't retain my full attention. But when you read or listen to a book, man, you're all in and you absorb that knowledge. And for me, I'm so influenced by that kind of stuff, I just can't read anymore.
I actually find that like an unbelievably fascinating insight, which I'm trying to process in real time. And I think, we are living in an, I call it MDD. We're all suffering from media deficit disorder. Younger people have a better ability to multitask with multiple screens at the same time. I'll never forget my son is probably 5 or 6 on a plane with 3 screens, the seat back of the plane, a phone and an iPad. I was like, what is going on here? But we know that we have shorter attention spans now than goldfish. The writing seems to be on the wall, and I almost think that we're living in what I would call a TLDR, time. Too long didn't read. I mean, this is the world of Twitter, right? Where everything has to be condensed in a quick hit. It is like a dopamine hit.
Yep.
So, and then on the flip side, I'd love you to respond to that, but also it's interesting that actually I've never heard someone articulate so interestingly the fact that a big book can actually be detrimental if it takes you away from your path and your journey. That is fascinating to me.
Yeah, I have several instances of particular books that I would read or be down the path of reading, and I would literally almost physically feel myself shifting towards God, that just makes so much sense. And I would start thinking about how to apply it to the business and how we'd implement it and the strategies we'd use. And then I'd go pitch it to the team, and I would watch the confused looks on their faces. And it took me forever to figure out why they were so confused with this sudden influx of energy around a certain ideal. And what I found was I would get so sold on this idea that I learned in a book that I would actually stop focus on other things in the business and push all my energy towards this new thing. And then I would be shifting the entire teams to do this thing. And so I had to, it took a couple of my teammates, people come up to me and were like, look, we can go do this, but we have these things to knock out first. Can we knock these out? And then if you still want to do that, we go that direction. And when it first happened, I got to admit, I was a little frustrated. I'm like, no, we're going this direction. We're doing this thing. And then later that night, I was like, wait, they came to me. Their job is to hold me accountable, not the other way around. My job is to run a company, make sure everything functions, put my name and brand out there. Their job is to hold me accountable. They came to hold me accountable to shit we said we were going to do. And I got my feelings hurt and was like, no, damn it, this is my company. We're going this freaking direction.
Yeah.
Being a freaking moron. So what I realized is that was like the first time I did it. And then a few months later, I read another book and then I did the same damn thing. And I'm like, And I started looking over my life, and what I found is most books became this weird silver bullet for me. So, and I'm not looking for a silver bullet, but I think a lot of us are wired to try and find the shortcuts, try and find the easier routes to get things done. And all these books all of a sudden became the answer to whatever question was we were looking for. So I had to step away from that influence. And for me, the smaller condensed content, like reading a long form post on LinkedIn, is about the extent of content I want to consume. Now I can listen.
And I need pictures as well. You know,
For sure.
I need images. I was as you were talking, I was thinking maybe there needs to be a book cooling off period.
Right.
You know, so you need like 24 to 48 hours where you're not allowed to go back to your team, and you need to sleep on it, I think, at least once or twice to then determine if and how it should integrate. And even so, it should never be like, hey, let's kind of like blow the whole thing up. It should be more just like enhanced and amplified, as opposed to this idea of, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Well, and I don't disagree with that. There was actually in a book I read once, somebody said that if it's a good decision, it'll still be a good decision tomorrow. You know, which is a fascinating thought process in as well. But I think part of me,
it's very meta, that, right? Because now you had to then agree that statement was true the next day.
Right. Exactly right. Exactly right. But, you know, I grew up in this world where everybody was around you, you know, Bill Gates, read 100 books a year, and all of these people who were deemed some level of success were telling you to read books. I mean, I remember Brian Tracy specifically saying you could get damn near a university level education by listening to books on your commute to and from work. As a kid who doesn't have a college degree, you know, trying to find my place in this world, you know, I didn't start my companies until I was 40, you know, that was a powerful statement that, you know, an uneducated type kid, I mean, I graduated with a high school diploma and all that stuff, but an uneducated type kid could get a university degree by listening to books. I think I was looking for that information, so I was devouring it more than maybe some should. And I think that's what led me down this path, you know, ultimately to give these books more stock than there actually should be. And if I had the ability to objectively read these books and stay removed from the emotional investment, because let's be honest, most people write a book to persuade, convince, teach you something, but ultimately everybody's trying to sell you their shit. Whether it's their story or their course, their brand, whatever, they're trying to get you to see that their thought processes, their methodology, their thing is the right answer. So the books are written as a badass piece of marketing collateral, and learning to disassociate with the undertones of the marketing messages in the books, like, you know, it's very hard to do.
It's such a great point, because it's like a piece of research, right? A new piece of research says that, you know, Web3 is going to revolutionize business as we know it, and the research was funded by the Web3 Association,
Right.
or the opposite, right? Or Web3 is the devil's, you know, and that was funded by the Television Association of America.
Mhm.
But look, there are only 2 books that have ever been written that are silver bullets. One is mine, which is Flip the Funnel, because I had no agenda. I wasn't trying to sell people funnels or flipping funnels. And then, of course, the other one is the magnificent book To Focus by Donnie Boivin. This is a book you should read cover to cover, and you should act immediately because it is a silver bullet. No, I'm just kidding. But I always say to people, you know, and look, I'm just giving you, you want branding? I'll give you branding. I'll even give you a logo there, a little logo on the top. But I always say you can't read about this shit in a book, except mine. No, even mine. But before we get to the book, I also want to say you are a Marine Corps veteran So I certainly want to say thank you for your service.
My honor.
You didn't, you know, you are, I mean, a testament in terms of your story, just putting the pieces together, high school diploma, discovering your authentic voice, and now building real businesses and inspiring real people. So I just want to say thank you, Donnie.
Oh, my
And
honor, dude. That means a lot.
you bet. And so now let's talk about to focus. This is not going to get old with me bleeping myself as well. Taking your business from growth mode to ultimate scale. The floor is yours to talk about the inspiration behind, and maybe why we need to make an exception and act on this. Damn it, immediately. Do not cool off.
I totally get the funny side of, I'm saying don't read books, but please go read my book.
You must.
That's right. It's a funny segue. But when I started out to build my business, I spent 20 years as an employee working for other people. And so I really didn't even understand that you could start a business, be this thing called an entrepreneur, until I was 40 years old. I mean, I grew up in a blue collar household where you went and you got a job and you worked for other people. And that's just the way it was. And so when I started hearing guys like Gary Vee, Tim Ferriss, and I was reading books by Jen Sincero, her How to Be a Badass series and stuff, I was understanding this concept that there may be something more to life than being an employee for somebody else. And literally, I had a conversation with a former business partner that said, "Hey, Donnie, thank God you're my retirement plan." So I could even say, I was literally somebody else's retirement plan my entire journey up to that point. And I really thought building a business was going to be simple. Everybody made it sound like sunshine and rainbows. I kept hearing the Instagram side of stories for people as they were, making millions of dollars in 4 years and doing all these amazing, crazy things. What I didn't ever hear was how hard it is to actually build a business and put all the pieces together. And, literally 6 months into building my business, I stood on the back porch of my farm, looked at my wife and said, "Babe, we're about to lose everything we own." The mortgage was 3 months behind. Her Jeep got repossessed and she had to cash in her 401k to literally save the farm and, the companies. And what I found was I had no idea how to run a business. I had no idea how to be a CEO. I had no idea how to act or think like a business owner, let alone think like a CEO. So I was doing everything from this mindset of being an employee and was acting like an employee. And as an employee, somebody else tells you what to do. And if you don't do it, you get fired. So early on in the business, I created a Facebook group on a complete whim because I wanted to be around people that were building businesses because I had no influences like that in my life. And what I found is as I shared my fuck ups and screw ups because I was trying to get advice, that people wanted to hear my stories and what I was learning. So when I decided to write this book, it took me 3 months to write this thing all together. I wanted to accomplish two things. One, I wanted people to have a guidebook that they could pick up at any point, any chapter, and read with wherever they're struggling and be able to apply it to their business immediately. Two, I wanted to do it from such a raw, authentic place that people knew that I was ultimately not trying to just sell them my shit. Now, I talk about Champions Table Mastermind all the way through the book, right? Happy to help people out there. But this book was really meant so people could pick it up, read it within 2 hours, and freaking get through it and get real tangible advice. And the feedback and shit that I've gotten from it, the reviews, have been absolutely insane. I was on an interview yesterday, and the gal, she showed me 24 pages of notes from an 83-page book. I'm like, you wrote half my book just taking notes. She goes, but we rolled it out to my entire team, and this is our complete philosophy for our company now. And so I just wanted people to be able to hear the shit show that I went through building the business, so they didn't feel so fucked up building theirs. And I've hopefully have accomplished that. I feel like I've accomplished that from all the feedback and everything I've gotten so far.
It's very heartwarming for me as well as an author when somebody comes up to you and says, "I've changed my career, I've changed my life, this has changed my business." It's a huge responsibility to have to bear on your shoulders, but it's so gratifying that someone paid $20 or even less for a book that can actually change a life.
So I don't think that's a heavy burden. That's an interesting statement for me, because I am just a firm believer that I'm just going to put the stories and messengers out there. If people take my words and they apply them and good shit happens, fucking awesome. If they don't, cool. That's on them, right? You know, but that's not my burden to be, you know, change their world or impact their world. I love it. It feels amazing and awesome, but that's not my weight to carry. My job is to continue to carve a path so fucking big that other motherfuckers get a little bit easier. I don't want it to be easy, because it's in the hard shit that you learn anything, but I want people to follow my fucking wake and go, all right, he's going to fuck it up first and maybe show us a different way of doing it. And I'm good with that.
So it was very interesting because you found your flow big time there with that comment about the burden. It was amazing to see how you just something just connected with you there, and it spoke to you. And it was just like I'm just reflecting on that right now. Something was like because you could immediately just push off against that and be able to kind of, you know, the path was all clear. And
I can tell you 100%, it comes from this idea that nobody tells you when you're building a business that you're going to fucking meet yourself. It's really easy when you work for somebody else to blame the world for fucking everything, man. You can blame them, you know, for bad marketing, the economy, and especially from a sales perspective. If you're not fucking showing up in life, it's really easy to blame everybody else. But when you build a business, you're going to get to a point where you realize that there's nobody left to blame but you. You know, success becomes your fault. Failure becomes your fault. Happiness is your fault. You know, everything is on you. And I can tell you, once I got to that point in my life, that I realized that the only thing that really mattered was liking the motherfucker in the mirror. Everything changed. And dude, I can tell you, once I got to that dark place of I'd fucked everything up and it was all my fault, I couldn't meet the motherfucker eye to eye in the mirror. It's like trying to shave or brush my teeth or anything else. I would damn near look away. And I realized if this thing's going to have to work, I'm actually going to have to like the dude looking back at me. And I think a lot of me now is on this kind of mission. The reason I triggered off so much on the burden is how you show up in your life. That's on you. I'm going to play my game. I'm going to do what works for me. And if you want to come along for the ride, cool. If you don't, fuck it. That's your game, your story, you know. And I think it goes back to even being influenced by the books and shit. You know, you got to play your own fucking sheet music in this life. Don't play it my way.
Amen. That's a different kind of bleep. That's yeah. I mean, that was amazing. And also, you know, for people, I don't normally do this as well, to actually like kind of take a moment and say, for people that are watching, this idea of like triggers don't have to be bad. They can be good triggers too. They can be great triggers because often in life, the only way to figure out who you are and who you need to be or who you want to be is to know who you're not and to push off against. They're equal forces, which is attracted to the light, but pushing off against the darkness. And I think that came across really, really strongly with you. Donnie, I always find a quote, and it was interesting because, you know, Lubna spoke about attention. It's always funny how everything connects without it actually being connected, because she actually sent that in last week as well. But this was the quote that I found for you, connected to the concept of dopamine, and I wanted to make sure that we had a chance to discuss it. The quote is, attention is the way social primates measure status. It is highly rewarding because it causes the release of brain chemicals such as dopamine and endorphins. So I don't know what the fuck that quote means, but I know that you have some thoughts about dopamine, about attention. And so I wanted to at least, make sure that we discuss this. I know some of the things, you wanted to talk about how dopamine, about dopamine studies and how we've been looking at it all wrong for years. So tell us more.
This has been a fascinating thing for me to go down the road. We grew up in a society of celebrate the wins, celebrate the big successes. You get the degree, yes, you get some sort of sales award, that's awesome. You win the championship, that's awesome. And people for the longest time have thought that the dopamine triggers in our life happen at the climax of doing things. And new science continues to come out around the idea that dopamine does trigger there, but that's actually what they call a dopamine dump. And a prime example is somebody wins a major award or they hit some financial milestone, and then they immediately go into a state of depression because there's nothing left. And what they've found is the dopamine didn't just fire off at the climax. It was actually firing off in small doses on the way to achieving the goal. And people have said for years, enjoy the process, embrace the journey, and all these type of things. And what they're finding now is if you can focus on the small dopamine triggers, you can actually prevent the dopamine dump when you get to the said goal you're trying to accomplish. And so it's the ability to celebrate the small cosmic macro wins versus the big, huge stuff along the way that actually forces you to evolve and enjoy the process. So most people, when you ask them, what are you most proud of lately? They'll hiccup or they'll pause because they have to really think about what is it, that thing that they're excited about. When you get around somebody who is focusing on enjoying the process, they're going to tell you things like, man, I'm so stoked that I was able to pick up the phone and call that guy. Or I was so proud that one of my ex did this type of thing, or one of my clients did this type of thing, because they're so focused on these micro wins, not these big milestones and achievements and attention, recognitions that other people can see. It's about celebrating your own internal successes of personal achievement. And it's fascinating to me because it's the opposite of how all of us were raised. And when we can learn to focus on the simple, tiny things that we are doing consistently right, we actually trigger the amount of dopamine that's fired off in our life. And we found over the years that everything happens after an action. Like motivation isn't even a real thing. And I can always put it this way is if you've ever been to the gym on a day you didn't want to go, you always feel amazing afterwards. So people are like, I've got to be motivated to be able to do the thing. Well, it's not true because you're never going to motivate yourself to do a thing. You go do the thing and then motivation kicks in. Dopamine works the same way. You go do a thing, you celebrate it, you get a taste of that dopamine, and then you ride that continually, consistently, and you don't ever actually get the dopamine drop off, and you're able to really enjoy and embrace the process.
I think you enjoy the dopamine hits when you do those sea shanty duets on TikTok. That's what I think. But yeah, I mean, Lubna is in her flow state as well. She said triggers are triggers. How you label it is up to you.
Well said.
And also, I mean, again, action rules, right? It's how we take action based on this. Lubna actually does call it inspired action. It's so funny how everything comes together because, as I have rolled out, this collective of mine, as I said earlier, the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, what I chose to do almost ignorantly and innocently was celebrate every single pass that is sold. And so what I decided to do is that everyone who buys a pass, I will tweet, I will call them out, I will celebrate them as if they were the only pass and the last pass. And I'm almost training myself again, dumb luck, right? Beginner's luck to because I know I will sell out. So that's inevitable. So in a way, I'm already moving beyond that because that's just nothing but an arbitrary milestone.
Correct. That's a right way to look at it. And if more people will look at it as just a milestone, the achievement of the thing, it transitions how you think about it. Because going back to the big win thought process, when you're so focused on the big win and getting to that big achievement and doing the thing, it actually, for most people, is a demotivator. And a lot of science around this as well is why goal setting doesn't work for most people, is because it demotivates them to actually try it because they don't believe they can actually achieve it in the first place. So if you can learn that whatever thing you want to get to is just a milestone on that journey, it allows you to focus on your own personal evolution. And that's where the magic of everything happens.
I think in a way, your magic, just having met you and seeing you in action, is being able to lean into and double down on absolutely who you are and what defines you and what makes you different. That you aren't the cookie cutter carbon copy consultant giving the shit that's been repeated and stolen and imitated in all these textbooks. And that's why it does come from the school. It comes from street smarts. It comes from the school of hard knocks, as they say. But it isn't just a bunch of cliches, like even the concept of, the goalposts moving. And it's like, well, okay, but ultimately, I mean, it's attempting to try and make a point, but in a very, very poor way, which is that the destination is just an arbitrary milestone. But it's not satisfying when it's coming from all these kind of corporatees, bullshit mouths.
Well, and I think, and I really appreciate that, because like I told you, I grew up in the self-help world. And if you really go back and read a lot of the experts of the day, these were all guys that are just regurgitating the same shit over and over again. And I've always heard that nobody ever thinks of anything new. They're just repeating what somebody else has discovered. And that really frustrated me, that there wasn't new original thought with things. So it forced me to start really thinking about what I thought about. And could I articulate it to a guy like me? And, a guy like me, you got to be able to bullet point it in a simple, generic way. Because if you get running on like a scientific approach or everything, I'm going to tune out. I'm not going to keep up with you. So I want to break everything down so nobody's got an excuse to why they can't wrap their head around things. And I want to be able to speak like I speak, talk like I talk, and just find my damn people.
And I mean, you just said it right now, which is how could I articulate this to my people, right? To a guy like me. Instead of trying to win over everyone,
Yep.
You focused on your people. You focused on knowing that you weren't going to connect with everyone, but you would connect with the right people. And that's hard because, we all want to, that goes back to the idea of attention. We all want attention. We all want to be loved. We all want to be adored. We all want to be validated. We can't deal with the shit that hurts. And sometimes it's criticism and sometimes it's failure.
God, I want to push back on that. The only reason people want attention, only people want to feel that love and all that everything else, is because they don't like themselves. And I promise that the people that are on this mission to be influencers and are on this journey to get the whole world to fall in love with them and the sound of their voice and the way they do, is because they can't look at themselves in the mirror. When you actually like the motherfucker that looks back at you in the mirror, nobody else's opinion fucking matters. And you can actually turn off the chatter. And I used to hear all these fucking people talk about, love your haters. And it took me a long time to fucking get there. And the truth of the matter is, the only time haters and the only reason haters upset you is because they're saying the same shit you're saying in your own fucking head. And that's the shit that fucking ingrains in your soul. And when you get to a point that you can just show up as you, fuck them all. And because your message is going to get through to the people that actually need to fucking hear it. And the rest of the people, they're so small-minded in how they show up and think in the world that they're actually getting validation by trying to knock you down. Fuck it. Bring on the love, man. If I can help you by calling me an idiot, a dumbass, or whatever else, I'm happy to do it.
You might just be a philosopher in disguise. But when you're not philosophizing, you're putting on badass business summits. Tell us about, we've got 85 days to get our shit together, do we not?
For sure. So I can tell you, last year, people said it was the best business conference they ever have been to. We don't do your typical business conference where you're going to get a ton of pitches, ton of vendors throwing shit at you. These are real speakers, real people. We will always be the stage that gives people their first shot ever up on stage, because nobody gave me a fucking shot when I was trying to get my name out there. And the cool thing is the speakers come off stage. They're participants. They're sitting in the fucking crowd with you. And we have literally changed the concept of how a conference should go by bringing phenomenal fucking networking, phenomenal learning. You work on your business while you're there. This is not a place where you go and take a shit ton of fucking notes and then get back home and have no fucking clue what you wrote down on your notepad and don't understand the notes you take. You're going to be actually working in groups on your business at the summit. So this has been one of the funnest things we've ever built, and it just continues to be a fucking blast to put together.
Well, if you want to, I was actually thinking, as I was winding down, I was thinking there were many times in today's wonderful, wonderful conversation where I didn't even realize that there were cuss words, because it just became, it felt like it should have, which is just two guys or two humans just having a conversation, and a really great one as well. One where there was divergence, there was difference of opinion, but ultimately, I mean, I feel fired up. I will go and make sure that I listen, read. Hopefully there's a comic book version of it, because of the way I read. Buy to Focus, taking your business from growth mode to ultimate scale. This is Donnie's new international best-selling book. Please go and register for the Badass Business Summit. And if you don't like the word ass or suck or fuck, then this may not be your people.
Yeah, well, we're not your people.
But challenge yourself, or just go and do it a sea shanty with him on TikTok. Connect with him on some of the other channels as well. Lubna says, thank you, Joseph and Donnie. Great conversation. I couldn't agree more. And you know what? First of all, I only have one criticism for today. And I'm sorry to say, but I don't know that you were full Donnie. I feel like you were holding back on me. And you know who else felt that as well? Was a little bit, despondent, was Chuck Norris, and yet he still was able to say this.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
I will be back on Thursday. Take care, everyone. Thank you, Donnie. Bye-bye.
Awesome, brother. Thank you.
Thank you for watching the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph JAFFE. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show. And if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.